What is the day-to-day life of the Sorcerer Supreme? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then we read it dramatically back to you. It's time for us to finally move to all new, all different Marvel. Now we will be doing some of the lead-up stories, some of the Battle World from Secret Wars, and some of the brand new runs. Whatever we think you need to go out and buy a comic book today. So today, we're going to be bringing you Doctor Strange, issues 1 and 2. Who is Doctor Strange? Well, his background isn't that complex, not when you consider how insane some of the origins really are. He is the world's greatest surgeon, whose talent is only exceeded by his ego. After a horrible car crash, his hands were injured beyond repair, and he would never perform surgery again. So he searched the world for a cure, something that would make him the greatest surgeon once again. What he found was magic, and he accepted the role of the Sorcerer Supreme. Each challenge that he faces has a chance to end in his doom or to end in his descent into madness. But what does the day-to-day life of someone like that look like? Well, he is in a magical-filled world filled with demons, giant teddy bears, and one rather attractive-looking snake woman. And he's going through hitting everything with magic, telling it that it doesn't belong here. He eventually turns everything into flowers, and then he begins to get rather close to the attractive snake woman. But that's when he hears a voice beckoning to him. Doctor? Dr. Strange, can you hear me? It's the boy's mother and father. He's actually in a young boy's mind, meditating over him, and right now he's making kissing sounds. Dr. Strange breaks out of his meditation and he tells the family, it is done. The foreign entities that were in the boy's mind have been driven out. He then walks out of the room through the window, and the family asks how they can repay him. And he tells them simply, be friendly to your neighbor. His birthday is coming up and he dreads spending it alone. Bake him a cake and wish him a happy birthday, and we'll consider your debt paid. He then leaves. He walks through the city wrapping his cape around him like a scarf and changing his outfit into a coat. The world is oblivious to the things around them. Demons, magic, and monsters are actually around everyone, feeding on the emotions and the thoughts of people. It's interdimensional bacteria. Most are harmless and some are even helpful, and some are someone else's burden to bear. But once in a while, Doctor Strange sees something that shouldn't be there, and he does what he can to stop those beasts, battling them right there on the city streets. But no one else can see what he's doing, and he just looks like a weirdo. So remember, all of those weirdos sitting in the city by themselves mumbling? They may be a powerful wizard chanting a spell, or they could be busy saving your life. But it does take a toll on one's soul to battle the unseen evils, and Doctor Strange walks through a wall and into a magical bar. It's a place with no doors hidden deep in the bowels of New York. And it is here that he can talk to those who understand him. Dr. Voodoo, Shaman, and Scarlet Witch to name a few. And eventually he ends up back at his home, 177A Bleecker Street, also known as the Sanctum Sanctorum. A young girl is standing outside working up the courage to knock on the door to find the individual that she is looking for. But she finds it hard to knock when there isn't even a doorknob. As she's walking away, Dr. Strange walks up and he tells her, the doctor isn't in. He keeps odd hours. So you really don't want to go knocking on that door unless you really need to, because you never know what kind of weirdness you're going to find yourself in. Unless you're already involved in some kind of weirdness and that's why you're here. Is he even real? Oh, he's real all right. You know, he calls this place the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is Latin for Holy of Holies. Why did you say you're here again? Because we get all kinds of people standing right where you are now, working up the nerve to knock. Tourists, nut jobs, groupies, and sometimes people who really need it. Are you sure you don't want to knock? So the young woman decides she will, and she walks up. And she works up all of her courage to knock on that door. And Doctor Strange walks in behind her. Well, are you coming in or not, Miss Stanton? She walks in and asks, how did you know my name? Really? That's the first question you choose to ask? How about you take off your hat and show me why you're really here, Zelma Stanton of the Bronx? So she does, and he looks into her scalp to see eyeballs and teeth. Well, that's new. I've officially never seen that before, Doctor Strange says, looking at it oddly. He hits it with a spell to understand it and see what it is. And he understands that it is soul eaters. And then suddenly they take off into the sky, infesting the house. But as he puts it, those were only the birds that fly away when you startle them. What's really inside of her head, the doctor thinks. So he hits her with the Crimson Bands of Siddlerock, and nothing happens. He looks down at his hand, and then he's suddenly overwhelmed by the creatures swarming him. He scared them out of her head, but now they're running through the house. He tells Wong, his assistant, to lock down the house. They have unwanted visitors. And then he hands Zelma a sword. Here, take this. You'll be perfectly safe, I promise. If I was going to be safe, why would I need the sword? Just how dangerous are those little things? I have no idea, but I guarantee you this. The house is more dangerous. He then leads her through his home, warning her not to touch anything as the sanctum is the greatest concentration of occult phenomena in existence. Simply opening the wrong door can literally release hell on earth. He then points in a corner, and that's just a refrigerator. Seriously, don't go near my refrigerator. In my travels, I've developed eccentric tastes. She looks over and sees a bunch of snakes on his coffee table. Are those supposed to be snakes on your coffee table? Do not talk to the snakes. They continue to walk through the house, and Dr. Strange points out 3 of them have died in the bathhouse, so he knows that they can die. They then walk upstairs, down some stairs, sideways on some stairs, and diagonally on some stairs. They basically walk all over some stairs, and Zelma is overwhelmed. But then, she sees the most horrifying sight of all, his library. How dare he stack his books like that? Inside the library, they find a few of the creatures, but one of them is scaring Dr. Strange, as it now has the Grimoire of Watum. The creature then opens it up, trapping both Dr. Strange and Zelma inside the book. It spins out of control, throwing them both out of it, and Zelma lands alone near a door that is slightly ajar. She decides to look inside to see monsters demanding meat for eating, but the supernatural scar that is the remaining creatures in her head bites their fingers, saving her. She then wanders through the sanctum alone and she ends up in the kitchen where she sees the creatures trying to open the fridge. She tells them to stop, but they open it and she gets to look inside his refrigerator. She then runs in horror as a creature comes crawling out of it. Luckily, Wong shows up and hits it with a frying pan and then throws it in a pot to cook. He throws in some spices and some sauces and then he offers to lead Zelma back to the good doctor. They walk into the main hall and she freaks out on Dr. Strange. "Oh my god, zombies tried to eat me and then your refrigerator went all Raiders of the Lost Ark on my face." Wong smirks and leaves, and the doctor tells him, "I did warn her about the refrigerator, Wong. I did, I swear." Dr. Strange explains that they got the creatures away from the books, but they escaped again. He then explains that they are still linked to Zelma, and he wants to use this link to lure them back to her. She freaks out. "You want to put them back in my head? Never!" "I did some research. They are mind maggots, and I need you to trust me. I'll take care of them before they can do any real harm. Now I need you to shout your darkest secret at the top of your lungs to attract them." Zelma can't believe this mess, but she is eventually talked into it. "I think my sister's baby is ugly and I tell my mom I'm a vegetarian to avoid her meatloaf and I eat a Roxy burger twice a week and I voted J. Jonah Jameson for mayor." The secrets are working and Dr. Strange can see them trying to return, but he stands in their way and he absorbs them into himself. He becomes the new host. He hits the ground with their faces popping out all over his skin and he tells Zelma it's over, she can go. She is curious though. How did this stop them now that he is infected? And he explains that they feed on psychic energy, but his mind is well protected, and they'll find no meals here. So they'll die off from starvation if the other parasites in his body don't eat them first. He escorts her to the door and he lets her out, asking her, "You know, I could use a hand around here. If you're interested, you could come by and sort my books." She gives him a weird look. "Is that a euphemism?" "No, I actually mean sort my books. You've seen my library." She thinks about it and she tells him that she'll be by on Saturdays. She could use a little weird in her life. Dr. Strange and Wong walk back into the house to prepare for their next insane adventure. As I said at the start, this is the all-new, all-different Marvel run, so if you want to follow along, go pick up the next issue of Doctor Strange, which is issue number 3. I don't know if we'll be getting to it, we probably will eventually. As for those of you guys asking for more Marvel stories, we are now finally trying to bridge the gap for you, so stick around and subscribe if you want to get more Marvel.